Van de circa 40 boeken die de Engelse schrijver Colin Wilson schreef, handelt de helft om filosofische beschouwingen. Het andere werk, meestal spannende verhalen, bevat altijd iets mystieks of iets magisch. In zijn fors tegen indringers beschermde huis in Cornwall bereed hij voor ons zijn stokpaardje.
Well, the thing that basically interests me is the problem of human consciousness. The fact that in certain moments we feel an extreme and intense happiness and are certain that life has a meaning.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas normally we're living so close up to life that it seems to be boring. It's these moments of intense certainty that interest me, that have always interested me, even from the time when I was a child. Moments at Christmas, when suddenly the world seemed beautiful, and I could never understand why it seemed so obvious that the world was meaningful at Christmas, and yet for the rest of the year it seemed so dull and stupid. I felt that it should be possible to work out whether it was really stupid or really important.
Ja.
And yet, if you believed that it was important, then you had to spend the whole year in a state of boredom in order to wait for the next time it became interesting again. This is what fascinated me. How would it be possible to work out a scientific way of understanding whether life is really stupid or whether it's really important? That was the thing that interested me from the beginning.
Ja.
I'm basically a psychologist, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I'm simply interested in how could we create these moments of intense ecstasy, or at least of intense drive. Now, Maslow thought that it was impossible. He thought that peak experiences come when they want to and they go when they want to, and there's nothing we can do about them.
No control.
No control.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that it is possible to have peak experiences at any time when you want to, but I do believe that it is possible to maintain the state of consciousness in which peak experiences occur. And it requires a certain kind of inner tension. You see, basically, the problem is that we only experience moments of freedom, these moments of intensity, under crisis. Do you remember Graham Greene, the English novelist,
Yes.
who in his teens experienced states of intense depression until one day he found in a cupboard a revolver belonging to his older brother, and he put one bullet into the chambers, spun the chambers, pointed it at his head and pulled the trigger. And when there was just a click, he looked down the barrel and saw that the bullet had now come into position. And he said he felt an enormous happiness and relief and a feeling that the world was really a very beautiful place. Now, you see, the trick there was that he was bored. And when we are bored, we sort of expand in a bad way. We relax negatively. He pointed the gun at his head, pulled the trigger, and his whole being went, "Ugh!" And then there was just a click, and he immediately went, "Whew." Now, when we do that, "Ugh!" and then, "Whew," this is what produces the peak experience. Thomas de Quincey, an English writer, once asked the poet Wordsworth how he had his moments of poetic ecstasy, and Wordsworth said, "Oh, I can't explain." Then they went along to meet the cart which was coming along with the mail, and Wordsworth got down on the ground and put his ear to the ground to listen for the rumbling of the cart, and as he straightened up he saw a star in the sky that suddenly struck him as extremely beautiful. And he said to De Quincey, "Now I can tell you how I get these moments of ecstasy. Whenever I'm completely concentrated on something that has nothing to do with poetry, and then I relax, whatever I see when I relax appears beautiful." It's always this total concentration on something that has nothing to do with poetry, and then the relaxation. So the basic mechanism is, and when you relax, the peak experience always occurs. Now, you could, in fact, do it very simply. If you simply took any object, like this knife, and you held it up against a white background, and you concentrated totally until you saw nothing but the knife, and then you relaxed and allowed your attention to expand to the room around it, and then concentrate again on the knife, and then relax again, you'll find that when you've done that 6 or 7 times, it begins to hurt behind your eyes. The sheer effort becomes a strain. Well, when it really begins to hurt, keep on doing it, because you're close to the peak experience. Force yourself to go on, and you'll find that as you do it again and again, quite suddenly there's a kind of inner wrenching feeling, and you relax into the peak experience of intense happiness.
You do that yourself?
I do it, but I've discovered different ways of doing it.
Uh-huh.
It's very difficult to remain conscious enough to do it consciously. We tend to forget and fall asleep, and this is the main danger.
Uh-huh. May I ask you something? You said something about Graham Greene, and I remember having read that you once tried to commit suicide yourself, or am I wrong?
No. This was a fascinating and strange experience. It was one of the most important experiences of my life because it taught me an enormous amount about the mechanisms of consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
It was during my teens, and I was extremely bored and completely sick of the job that I was doing. I was working in a laboratory and working at school as an assistant, and I felt that every day I'd start off optimistic, and then as the day went on I'd get more and more depressed. And I felt in a way that the whole thing was a confidence trick, that God was trying to persuade us to make tremendous efforts. And then it was like a donkey having a carrot put in front of its nose, and always the carrot is pulled away as you try to snatch it. I felt that the whole of life is a confidence trick, so I decided one evening that I was suddenly absolutely sick of it, and I determined that I'd kill myself. I came home, I wrote in my journal for 2 hours before I went off to night school, and I thought that when I got to night school I would take down the bottle of cyanide from the shelf and drink it. Well, I went into the class late, and the class was on the other side of the room around the professor. I went to the reagent shelf, I took down the bottle of potassium cyanide and uncorked it and sniffed it, and suddenly I had a very strange experience. In effect, I became two people, one standing at the side of the other. Colin Wilson was standing there holding the bottle, and I was standing at the side of him. I'm speaking figuratively, I don't mean this literally, and yet I quite distinctly felt that this idiot called Colin Wilson was stupid and wanted to kill himself, and I didn't give a damn if he killed himself. I felt he was such a fool, but if he killed himself, he'd kill me too, and I felt that would be serious. And I had a distinct sensation of drinking the liquid, the horrible burning sensation in the stomach, because cyanide burns out the pit of the stomach. And it suddenly seemed completely absurd, and I put the cyanide back on the shelf and was in a mood of intense happiness that lasted for 2 or 3 days. But the interesting thing was that I became two persons, one standing at the side of the other. This is always what has fascinated me, that the 20th century kills off its most important people because they die of despair and boredom and so on. If only they could last long enough to gain strength and self-confidence, they could become the leaders of civilization. Mm. This is what all my books are about.